Hey friend, do you want to offer meaningful learning solutions that create behavior change, fit in the flow of work, and yield real results for your nonprofit? If yes, this is the podcast for you. Join me as I explore instructional design and leadership development best practices, as well as change management, belonging, and influence. If we haven't met yet, I'm Heather, and I've been in your shoes. I'm a learning and development consultant and founder of Skill Masters Market. Before starting my business, I led learning and leadership development initiatives for a large national nonprofit. I know what it's like to need to develop your staff quickly and effectively and to build the relationships and cut through the organizational layers to be successful. And I'm bringing all of that to you in this podcast. So block your calendar, turn off your Teams or Slack chat, and let's dive in. It's learning for good. I've been working on a client project, and it involves a mindset shift, a new perspective on an existing thing. So I knew right away I wanted to use a story to help prompt this shift. Stories help us learn. They engage us on an emotional level, which if you've ever heard of the elephant in the rider, you know how important it is to engage the emotions and not just the brain. And if you haven't heard of the elephant in the rider, go look that up. It's really good stuff. But stories help us simplify complex concepts because we can easily relate to the character or to the situation. And they can help us connect to something already within us sometimes too, some knowledge or experience or skill we already have, and then allow us to build on that in the learning process. So I was excited about the story I would use in this client project. And I knew I had to use it to draw the learner in. But one of the more challenging parts of using stories is finding the right visuals to go with them. Enter AI. Now, I'm going to be honest. I use AI a lot at home and at work, but I have not yet started using AI for visuals. I've seen some pretty poor examples, to be honest. And while I think AI is the future for our visual stories, I just haven't started using it yet. And that's why I'm so excited to have Dr. Leonard join me today, because Nicholas has not shied away from using AI to create visual stories. In fact, his passion is at the intersection of AI and learning. So Nicholas is the perfect person to help us think through how we can use AI to create persuasive visual stories in our training. Let's dive in. It's learning for good. Dr. Leonard is a leader in integrating educational technologies and data analysis into learning with over 12 years of experience in learning experience design. He utilizes data analysis to drive instructional improvements, report performance metrics, and track learner progress. He leverages his expertise in adult learning theories and his experience in leadership development and performance improvement initiatives to create engaging and effective learning experiences. Dr. Leonard is a passionate advocate for the power of visuals for storytelling. He believes that visual communication can be a powerful tool for teaching and learning. He has delivered over 80 presentations at state, national, and international levels, including 2 TEDx talks. He has also authored publications, most of which directly address the intersection of AI, learning, and creative problem solving. Nicholas, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Heather.
I'm excited to have you join. This is a topic that I know I'm particularly interested in, and I really think that the Learning for Good listeners are going to be really interested in this one too. AI is such a powerful tool. We know it has a lot of potential, and it's just a matter of how comfortable we are at this point in the process and how much our organization is being open to AI at this point in the process. And so I know there's going to be a lot of interest in how we can use AI to create persuasive visual stories for our training. Before we get there, I always like to have a little bit of backstory so we know who we're talking to and why. So tell us a little bit about your career journey.
Happy to. Well, my career journey started in 2012. I graduated from Hope College in Holland, Michigan with an art education degree. Instantly started teaching elementary art for 3 years. And I've always identified as a techie person. And I was very excited because during that first role, there was a tech initiative. So all my learners got iPads and Chromebooks. Being a big researcher, I love getting data to make informed decisions. I instantly went online to try and figure out how can I make the best judgments onto what I should be providing to these 1,000+ students. And I was a little disappointed. Everything was so positive, it sent out warning signals. Everyone wants technology to support learning. So it's really hard to say something doesn't support learning with tech. So I then went on to get my master's degree in art education with a focus on assessment and technology to be able to tease that out. I was able, thankfully, to recall my own prior experience with a lot of tools to make informed decisions, but I wanted to help other educators make those decisions because I saw the trend with where technology was heading. Once again, at the time, iPads were fairly new, which is hard to think about. But that's where we were. And I did my master's degree at the University of Nebraska at Kearney. Loved the program. Dr. Lisa Costello was my mentor. And when I finished that, I realized there were still some unanswered questions. There hasn't been any research done to address learning and technology that I was looking for. So I decided to pursue a PhD in art and design education at Northern Illinois University. Worked with my co-chairs, Dr. Carrie Freeman, Dr. Doug Boughton, on my dissertation, which focused on digital technologies, learning, and creative problem solving. During my time at NIU, I was also an instructor and lecturer, full-time faculty, and it was a blessing working there. I graduated with my PhD in the summer of 24, so fairly recent. I had the blessing of Chris Gradowski, an NIU graduate and mentor, who helped me look into industry. I just love engaging with people, and I see digital technologies as a great way to inspire and motivate and help people just have a more engaging time, not only at work, but just life in general. And it's an exciting time, like you mentioned, with AI. Currently, I just accepted a position just a few days ago with Caterpillar. It's amazing to work with an industry leader where I'll be working on reorganizing learning and learning management tools, as well as facilitating their authoring of data analysis relating to learning assessments for their construction industry services division. So I'm very excited about that opportunity moving forward.
Yeah, congratulations on the PhD and the new position that you'll be starting very soon. What I find so fascinating about your career journey is that you've combined art, education, technology, and now this corporate learning bend, right? And what you get to create from that will be different than what anybody else creates because of your unique background. So I'm super excited that we get to learn from you today. So thank you again for joining us. And I can't wait to dive in with these questions.
Me too. Thank you for the compliment.
So the first thing I want to start with actually is backtracking from AI for just a moment, because AI is a tool. And I want to think a little bit more about why this is even important. So why are stories so important in learning? And then how do visuals, specifically, how do those visual stories support learning?
Great questions. I also really appreciate you backing up. It can be very easy to get distracted by flashy, fun tools. But at the end of the day, it's what are we doing and what are those moments of engagement? So why are stories important for learning? Coming from a PhD, I always am focusing on learning theories, the ontology, epistemology. How do we know we are learning? How do we identify ourselves as beings who are developing? And when we have different learning theories, we see the world operating in different ways. And different theories can help us think about learning from unique perspectives, which will give us new field goals to aim for. How do we support learning for a particular audience? And what's nice about stories supporting learning and being important for learning is that stories are engaging. And the big common denominator across many learning theories is just simply that it is motivating learners with engaging topics. And images and stories do that, just that. And when we can tell stories with and through images, we're just combining two superpowers in a really effective way that we can motivate those learners. So storytelling and images really can blend very neatly into a lot of different learning theories. And how do visual stories support learning? The images, they're engaging, they're memorable, they're accessible. Almost exactly a month ago, I was at the Executive Learning Exchange Conference hosted at Zurich, North America. where Terry Hart gave a presentation. And it was one of many presentations, but something stuck out to me from her presentation. She had one slide dedicated to an image of a van. And it wasn't just, okay, here's a van, next slide. This van was part of a story she was telling, talking about the influence on AI within industry. And if I close my eyes and I think about this presentation, I see that van first, and then the memories start to trickle and then flood in with all the associations that one visual had with the story for that entire presentation. So maybe you have a presentation that you saw recently, and if you think back to it, once you see one slide, the rest of that information can come flooding back. So that's just some proof in the pudding there. And it's that idea that images are intentionally used. They're not just put in as a filler to help make a slide feel more complete, quote unquote.
We have done a lot of that in our time in L&D, but some of that I think is because we know that visuals are important, but it's hard to find the right one. And so when you think about that van, that was probably really intentionally selected based on the story that speaker wanted to tell. Tell us a little bit about how AI can help us find that right visual.
Great question. So the right visual, once again, it's very contextual of a question because you have a particular goal you're trying to achieve with a visual. Some visuals, you want to have a very clear understanding of what's going to be accomplished with that visual. You don't want to have a interesting visual over an exit door and have people pause and go, oh, this is amazing. What could it mean? In an emergency, you want people to see it and be able to go. And the same thing applies for other things such as manuals when you are going in on a flight and the hostess tells you to take out your instructional and look at the flotation device under your seat. It's all images. It's accessible, quick to use, and that emphasis on images is powerful. Where we try and find the right image, sometimes you want to have people be able to see an image and go straight from point A to point B, be in lockstep with what you're trying to say. And other times you may be trying to find an image that can open up discussion. Maybe go, okay, right now we're having an interesting problem with employee turnover, and we are having difficulty identifying what's occurring here. Since you are in an ambiguous state, maybe having an image as a discussion point and leap pad to work off from can really enable. So when we're trying to find the right visual, you need to first understand the type of story you're trying to tell. But what I find personally really exciting about AI is making image generation or the creation of images more accessible. A lot of individuals who may not have identified as quote unquote artsy or have the art skill are now getting their toes wet in actually producing images. And coming from an art education background, this is exciting to me because it's, once again, that motivation of learning. People are looking at images in new ways because they have tools and potentials that they didn't see in themselves previously. So as more images get made, then you start to have more connoisseurship where you can identify certain trends within images, and then it's a refining process. So this AI helping us create images is great. And then on top of that, you now have AI tools built in with Adobe Firefly to now edit images with AI. So it's no longer you get what you get, it's generated, but now you can use AI to generate an image and then use AI to polish the image to really get the point across that you want. And the big thing here is just knowing what types of questions you want to ask AI in order to produce an image. Because if you go in unsure, you're going to have an unsure result. So that idea of what is the message? Am I trying to document something or am I trying to express something? One quick example of that can be easy to follow the difference. If I see a company posting about a great company culture and they're using an AI image, yes, they can create that image, but in an instance like that, you probably would want to see photo documentation as evidence of something occurring. It actually almost becomes more concerning that there's no photos of a positive company culture and that we have to use AI. So it's also finding the right place to use AI.
Do you wish you could connect with other nonprofit learning and development leaders? I know what it feels like to want someone to bounce ideas off of and to learn from, someone who really understands you and your work. Imagine if you could have a simple way to meet people in the field, ask questions, and share information. That's why I created the nonprofit Learning and Development Collective, where nonprofit, L&D, talent management, and DEI leaders can connect with each other quickly and easily in a virtual space. When you join this community, you will walk away with a new, diverse, and powerful network and a sounding board for your staff development needs. So if you're ready to exchange ideas and collaborate with your peers, come join the nonprofit L&D Collective. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And images really can be powerful. I like the two examples that you gave around an image can be used when it needs to be really clear to help give direction, or it can be used when things are a little bit more ambiguous and you want to open up for discussion. I think those are two really good examples of how images can be used and then how AI can support that, meaning you're going in, you're asking the right questions, you're looking for the right things when you're using AI for images. Let's break it down. Step by step might not be the right phrase, but let's break it down a little bit more from there. How does an L&D pro leverage AI for visual stories? What is the process they would use? You mentioned knowing your goal and asking the right questions, but what is the process that someone would use if they're in need of images and they're thinking about using AI to do that?
Great question. Well, the first thing I would do is think about the placement of where this image is going to exist. Is it going to be in a slide deck? Maybe it's going to be on a pamphlet, or maybe it's going to be in a laminated document adhered to a desk at a workspace to help remind a worker of a process. So there's a lot of context there. And depending on where an image is going to be shown, how long someone's going to be exposed to it may influence the type of image you may consider making, from a simple icon that's easy to identify to maybe a image with more content and context to be visually digested and impactful. So thinking about where we can place these images, and also the fact that we can use these images in a wide range of spaces. Like I mentioned before with the van example, the idea that we need to, when we use visuals, let them be in the center stage. It is not going to be this redundant piece. If I say the glass is half full, and then I show you a picture of a glass half full, I'm not getting any new information here. All I've done is create more visual clutter while I'm doing a presentation. If I'm facilitating, people are going to be looking at the image. Some people are going to be reading. I'm going to be talking. Too many points of contact. Let's streamline this. If I want to say glass is half full, get a powerful image of just a glass half full. Simple example. But in terms of what is the process, I like to try and do things generally in 4 steps. The first 2 are really front-loaded and don't really have much to do with actual visuals. It's really the storytelling and developing my characters, if you will. So the first point is data analysis. A lot of times in L&D, you may have smile sheets. You're getting information. You're measuring the impact of learning. A lot of effort there. But the whole point of data analysis is to change behavior. If you've done data analysis, but you're not effective with your storytelling to help guide future decisions, or if people attend your presentation on your new initiative and you had a nice bar chart or histogram, people may nod their head in the moment, but is that going to be a powerful moment that exists beyond that session? In 2 weeks, will your higher ups remember that takeaway and say, actually, we need to go in this direction because of the visual you provided? So data analysis will help you identify what are the big sticking points. Is it about employee turnover? Is it about skill gap analysis? Is it the ROI on upskilling with AI in your own company? There's a lot of different questions, but you need to know, what are we talking about? And then the second step is defining the message. How are we going to talk about this? Is this going to be an open topic where we want to allow for discussion? Maybe we can focus on that employee turnover example I provided before, or do we want this to be clear cut? There's no discussion to be had. It's very persuasive with what the data analysis has shown. So that all is front loaded, and you can do a lot of that effort with AI tools as well, ChatGPT, Copilot, etc. The one thing I will say is a lot of that will be using probably private company data. So you want to be aware of those issues within your company and policies. But the exciting part is this last 2 steps, which really focus on creating that visual with AI. The first step in this visual creation is what I like to say is identifying visual metaphors. So a visual metaphor means that we are not trying to make a literal image of something happening. If I'm talking about employee turnover, I could ask AI to generate a line of people walking out of a building. The problem with that, in my mind, is it's once again redundant, restating what I've already told my audience, and it's not helping connect emotionally with the topic at hand. So instead of that, I could ask ChatGPT, give me 10 visual metaphors regarding employee turnover, and it will then give you 10 examples. You can then if you don't like any of those, give me 10 new ones. Maybe you work in the food industry and you can say, give me 10 visual metaphors relating to food for employee turnover and see what it provides. So you can really flavor these visuals already with ChatGPT. So if you don't identify, quote unquote, as a creative person, which I take personal issue with that type of comment, but we'll let that continue. Use ChatGPT or Copilot text-based, just ask for visual metaphors. Eventually, something will stick out to you. Once you have a visual metaphor that's interesting, what I would then encourage you to do, step 2, is once again ask AI to identify any associated meanings with that visual. Now, associated meanings are very powerful for learning because it engages individual prior knowledge. This includes time, culture. There's so many different backgrounds that a diverse group can bring to a particular topic. And with a lot of DE&I initiatives, this is really aligning with that because we're pulling in discussion saying, not everyone is experiencing this image in the same way. Let's talk about that. And how does it relate to this particular issue that we're discussing? So going back to employee turnover, I asked AI to develop 10 examples. One was a revolving door. Another was a leaky bucket. A revolving door definitely makes sense for employee turnover, people going in and leaving very seamlessly. The problem is, an associated meaning, it's functioning as designed. That is what a revolving door is meant to do. Whereas a leaky bucket, that is now a faulty item. The bucket's not supposed to leak. Is this one big leak? Is this a bunch of small leaks? And then now I have 2 metaphors, but they're not created equal. And it's not that one is inherently right or inherently wrong. It's more so the context. What is the story you're trying to tell? If you believe the company is designed, maybe our onboarding is just so engaging. We're giving a lot of tools and making it easy for people to leave to another role that they can get a higher salary. Well, maybe that's more of a revolving door issue. We're designed to have this turnover rate. Whereas if it's a leaky bucket, something's not functioning the way we think it should be functioning. How do we address it? Let's discuss this. And now, when you're talking with fellow employees, it's no longer a difficult question of what do you think's broken in the company for employee turnover? You now get to use this visual metaphor. Okay, we have a leaky bucket situation. What are some leaks that you identify that may be causing this X, Y, and Z? And now we have that visual metaphor to discuss. Once you have completed that associated meaning and you're sure the visual you want to use is appropriate, then you can go to whatever tool is accessible to you, ChatGPT, Copilot. There's so many tools out there. Those are just the 2 most frequently cited ones. That's why I use them. But you just can then type in, generate an image of, and then copy and paste the text. It's very much like a Google search bar, if you will. Text-based, type in a visual description, hit enter, and then you can make edits as needed. But going through that data analysis, define the message, visual metaphors, associated meanings, means that you now have a very powerful launch pad in your visual storytelling that can engage your audience and help those big ideas stick and be accessible.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I love how you 2 backed it up from the actual going to ChatGPT and type in that you need an image, but really thinking about what is the actual need, what's driving the need for an image, what's the message that you want to convey, and really backing it up into some of those foundational things before you ever even get to the ChatGPT. And then one of the things that I appreciate that you shared is that we're asking AI to create multiple of whatever it is that you're looking for so that you have options and you can dive deeper into those options as you figure out what's going to resonate right with your audience. I think that's one thing that when new to AI, it's easy to just say, what is the answer to this? Without actually generating multiple ideas and in that multiple idea that it can really become a thought partner for us. So really appreciate you sharing all of those components in the process for leveraging AI for visual stories. One of the things that you mentioned was data privacy, if you're looking at internal corporate data or whatever. So I know that often comes up as a question or a point of conversation when we talk about AI. So, what else do we need to know about using AI before we jump in? And I'm sure data privacy is probably one of those things, but what else is there that we really need to know about AI before we jump in with this?
Definitely. When we're addressing AI, I'm always a big picture person. I'm always trying to pair theory with practice, identify a problem, then I go to the tools. I don't pick up a hammer and then look for nails, if you will. So when it comes to using AI tools, I tend to encourage people go with what is accessible to you. If you already have a company policy for a particular platform, see what's possible there. A lot of times people seem to be hesitant to get started because they want to make sure they're starting with the right program. And by and large, a lot of these AI tools have very similar features, especially for getting into it. You're not going to hit many roadblocks early on. Just get started. And once you are using AI, the first big red flag moment is being aware of bias with AI. When I generate different images, sometimes, especially with humans in the image, a lot of times it's lighter pigmented skin, male projecting individuals. And when we talk about DE&I initiatives, there's big red flags. I recently did a publication with Johnson Kwame War, a brilliant scholar from Ghana, Africa, talking about bias in AI. And there were examples during the Barbie movie release. A journalist generated a Barbie from every country. And it was supposed to be this fun, quick story building where people could scroll through. And it ended up being horribly racist, sexist. We had a lot of issues across many topics. It was almost hard for you to do any worse with what was generated. And the thing is, sometimes those can be blatantly obvious, like Germany looking like you're wearing Nazi clothing, where other cultural interpretations and values may be a little bit more subtle. So make sure when you're generating AI content that you're aware of where this is going to be placed, what it's referencing, and be cautious of that. And with that, if you are interested in that, I would highly recommend Coded Bias on Netflix as a great documentary. Also the work of Dr. Joy Blow-Wimmy, MIT graduate and co-founder of the Algorithmic Justice League. Also exploring things like critical visual literacy. A lot of people have had a lot of experience in their life viewing images. You are an expert image viewer. You are a connoisseur. You can look at an image and quickly know if you like it, if you don't like it. You may even be able to quickly articulate why you do or do not like it. But not everyone is also an expert in creating images. Chances are you've spent significantly more time viewing than you have making. So now getting into AI image generation, give yourself grace with creating images. And it's not a failure. It's a learning experience because you'll be able to quickly identify what you don't like about an AI tool and be able to make adjustments. So don't go in expecting perfect. I encourage people to tinker. Try and break it. See where it stops working. How many subjects can I get to put in one image? Can it do one person? How about 3 people? How about 5? When does it stop? And once you know that boundary, it's easier to adjust. On top of that, programs are always changing. So just be ready to ride waves. You ebb and flow with it. But the nice thing is the qualities and the value of the images in your storytelling and the learning theories that support that engagement and motivation are not changing. So the fact that you are using images is a powerful tool, and it's just simply making those images. We already briefly mentioned that image generation does not have the same privacy leaks. So this could be a great tool to get quick wins with AI that could maybe really impress higher ups to maybe invest more. And then that more sticky data analysis with company policies, individual performance that you don't want to have leaked or exposed can be teased out. But creating visuals is a great space to go in with that. And then finally, with AI, there are a lot of unseen aspects with energy costs and environmental concerns. So going in-house versus outsourcing AI tools, depending on your role in the company, that can be something that you can look into but it is something to be aware of because it is coming at a great cost, but it's a little bit out of sight, out of mind at the moment. I see once we have cell phones using very advanced AI, and we see our batteries draining a bit faster, it will feel a little bit more real. But I think there's also interesting developments with different types and sizes of AI models that can run more efficiently. So as things develop, be fine adjusting. Once again, you're always making images. That's not changing. It's really just the tool and the size. So if something can do it more efficiently for cheaper, that sounds like a win.
It really aligns with how we think about our work anyway, right? We are the learning people. We want to have this curiosity and this growth, and we want to be committed to continuous learning because that's what we want from our learners, right? So this really provides an excellent little playground for us as we go into a territory that might be new for us and start to play with it and see what it can do. So I love having these conversations about AI just for that reason. We are the perfect people to go into this playground and play and learn. And yeah, it's not going to be perfect every time, but you're not going to have a giant sandcastle every time you go to the beach and build on the sand either, right? It takes time and experience. And it's really about that growth mindset that we can bring to it. So thank you for sharing all of this today. Thank you for talking about stories in general and then sharing your process as well for creating visual stories using AI. I know that those who are listening are probably already thinking about ways they can use AI for this. They probably have a project or something coming to mind where they're going to need a visual. And so hopefully this is maybe something that they can implement right away. So thank you again for joining. I'm really excited to have you on this episode and look forward to hearing from you more.
Thank you so much for having me, Heather. It was a great discussion. I really appreciate your thoughtful questions as well.
Thank you. This episode is so practical. You probably have something in mind right now where you need an image and could use AI to help you. And to recap this simple process, you're going to look at the data to determine what it is you're trying to achieve, create the message, and then ask AI to give you 10 visual metaphors for that message. And these visual metaphors that AI gives you, they could be based on realistic photography or vector art. And then ask for any associated meanings with those visual metaphors to help you select the right one. And once you have all of that information, you can ask AI to generate that image, again, realistic photography or vector art, to match the metaphor of your choice. This is so simple and so practical and so easy to implement. If you're on LinkedIn, will you give this a try? Go to your AI tool of choice and create an image using this process. And then head over to LinkedIn and share the image you create. And then tag me in the post so I can see. What a fun way to practice your image making skills and share this practical advice with others. I'll see you next time on Learning for Good. Hey friend, was this episode helpful for you? Did you like what you heard? Do you want more content like this? Here are 3 things you can do. Hit subscribe. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast app of choice. Share this episode with a colleague. This means so much to me personally. I read every review, but it also helps me learn what content you like most so I can create more of what you want. All right, turn that Teams or Slack chat back on when you're ready, and I'll see you next time on Learning for Good.